Satam, hello yogis and yoginis. Welcome to the Karam Kriya course. We are starting today with number 7. We have been we've done an introduction on Karam Kriya in general, on numerology, and we're going to go straight away today into number 7. Something that we saw in the last video is how there's different systems of numerology, and Karam Kriya is numerology of numerology, like studying the essential nature of numbers in spite of whatever interpretation we want to utilize to apply it to something, be it date of birth or be it astrology or anything like that. And we saw that to understand the nature of numbers, we had to start with number 7. And the reason for that I mentioned was because number 7 is linked to the mind. And I didn't talk too much about why it was linked to the mind, but I kind of connected the 7 colors of the rainbow with looking and looking with the mind. So I kind of do it like this. We're going to go slowly today. We're going to explore number 7. We're going to start with it. And we saw the last time, in the last video, that this was the sequence we were going to be utilizing. And there was something else I was planning to draw here, but I didn't do it the last day because I felt it was quite complete by the way it was. But today we're going to start with that one, which is when we are starting to study numbers, we can approach each number individually. So we can take every one of these numbers and study it by itself. And in fact, we are going to do that through the course. We're going to spend, we're going to spend a number of days on number 7, then on number 5, then on number 1. In a traditional training on Karam Kriya, we would actually spend 5 full days. If this was a retreat, 5 full days on the 7, 5 full days on the 5, 5 on the 1, 5 on the 2, making this training something that lasts more or less 2.5 years, 3 years. Yeah. So it's a long training, it's a long commitment. But being it, because I'm doing weekly videos, and probably we're not going to do like the whole training because this is not a training. This is more like a course and we are doing it online, but we are not face-to-face, so I cannot guide meditations. I cannot do exercises in groups, which we would normally do in a regular training. You would be working in groups and you would be working on yourself and studying things from your life. So we are not doing any of that. And so it's probably going to be shorter, so because it's mainly just me talking, right? So, but that's what happens when you study one number by itself. Now, you can study numbers by themselves, or you can study them in couples, or in groups of 3, or in groups of 4. And I want to make a little bit of emphasis onto this point. So let's talk about how we understand the numbers connect in couples. Why are they couples of numbers? Well, we have 5 fingers in one hand, and therefore in the 2 hands we have 10 fingers, so number 10. And it is believed that this is probably the reason why we utilize our mathematics. We utilize base 10. Right? You know that computers use base 2 binary code, 0 or 1. Yeah, that's base 2 means there's only 2 possibilities, 0s and 1s. So if you want to do number 0, you have a 0, number 1 is a 1, but number 2 already requires 2 digits. So it would be 1, 0. So that's base 2. We use base 10. If we were using, if we had 12 fingers in our hands, it is likely that as humans, we would not be operating with a base 10, but we would operate on base 12. And maybe we would have, on top of 9, we would have 2 other symbols before we become 2 digits, right? So if you look at other bases like hexadecimal, that's another very common utilized base, especially when things are related to computers, because hexadecimal is linked to binary. You can find this often when you are asking for some passwords for some Wi-Fi. So you have the numbers from 0 to 9, and then you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. E, F, G. I think it's up to G. So that would be 16 digits. So you can have, every digit can be from 0 to G, right? So that's utilizing hexadecimal, but we use decimals. And we use decimal because we have these 10 fingers. And in a way, that 10 represents something that is like something special, different from 1 and 2 and 3. In the number 10 is like there is something greater, something is beyond. And it's like something is being complete. Like all the numbers go up to 9, and then zip, when you get to 10, is like 2 digits, 1 and 0. And the number 0, the fact that we utilize a 0 could, we could say 0 is a number, but 0 was kind of invented as well. So we could argue whether 0 is a number or not. But the 0 itself is very special because it's round. And we know that the round symbols are something that are connected to perfection. Because if you go back thousands of years and you put into, whoever ancient person was alive then, and you would look around, and rarely would you see something absolutely round. You would see it in the eyes, yeah, that's quite a circle as well. And maybe that's why eyes are something very sacred also, no? The eye, the window to the soul, is considered something very special. But apart from the eyes, you would have to look into the sky and see the sun. And the sun traditionally would be associated to God, because the sun brings life. The sun makes our crops grow. And the sun has all these beautiful qualities. When there is no sun, we are hiding in caves, right? We cannot do anything outside. So we are waiting for the sun to come out for us to be able to work and to live. So the sun is life, really, in a way. And so it is considered something divine, something special, something higher than us. So number 10 is special, and because number 10 has this round thing, we connect 10 to God. We connect 10 to this something special, something divine. And now, if 10 is considered perfection, only God is perfect, and only the circle of the sun would be perfect, right? If we consider 10 as perfection, those numbers which add up to 10 would be perfect pairs in a way, right? So if we have 10 fingers, we can do this, and I invite you to do this as well. You can join your thumbs, and then the little fingers can touch, and then the ring fingers and the middle fingers and the index fingers. So these fingers which are touching, they are good friends, because this is number 1, 2, 3, 4. In the middle is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 1 and 9, if you add them, it's 10. 2 and 8 is 10. 3 and 7 is 10. And 4 and 6 is 10. And the 0 of 10 would be like if I put like a compass, right? If I put my thumbs in the middle and I draw with my pinkies, I would be drawing a circle all around. So you can see that kind of. We can do a little drawing for that. You could see it like that. I'm going to do it here. And you have number 1 and number 9 are connected. This would be 5. Right? So imagine that I'm doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number 5 is the number in the middle, just like the thumb is in the middle. And so there is an inflection point. There's a point where things change in the 5. And so you can see, if we look at it through horizontal lines, we will see that there is a connection between those numbers which are in the horizontal. So the 2 and the 8 are connected, the 3 and the 7 are connected, the 4 and the 6 are connected, and the 5 is connected to the circle around. Yeah. So if we had to study the numbers in pairs, you could do 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, and 5 connected to the circle around, which is 10. Hopefully that makes sense. And what this means is that if you remember, I mentioned the last video that we were going to have certain pillars for our understanding of numbers. One of the main pillars for me personally, but in general, is the 5 elements. This is something that is so at hand, literally for us, literally because, it's 5, right? So we have the 5 elements so close to us, and we are quite experienced with them. We know what water is, we know what earth is. And because we are so familiar with it, it's easier to relate to the elements. Very often, it's much easier to relate to the elements than it will be to relate to numbers directly, at least at the beginning of a training, right? So when you are looking at an emotion, this is a classical example. If I'm looking at anger, and you would say, well, what kind of element is that? Anger. And then you would think, well, is anger earth? No. Is anger water? Not really. Is anger fire? Yes. Okay. So anger will belong to the realm of fire. And fire being the third realm, because we will see why, but basically it's connected to the third chakra right now, if you want, an easy way to do it. Then we could say that these 3 and the 7, because they are connected, are going to be connected to fire in some way. And we're going to see many ways in which these connections happen, and the magic will come up as we are exploring the connections between the numbers and these qualities. So this is what we're going to be doing. Let me just check. We are recording properly. I think everything is going well. Okay. So if you study the numbers in pairs, we study 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, 5 and 10, and we connect these to the 5 elements. So if you know yoga, and you don't have to, but I'm going to be talking quite a lot about yoga because I'm a yogi, and it's very much connected to yoga, numerology. So if you know yoga and you know the first 5 chakras are connected to the first 5 to these 5 elements, then you can already know quite a bit about the qualities that these pairs of numbers are going to have. We're going to go that into a lot of detail, but not right now. So right now I'm just exploring. If we are studying individual numbers, we would go each one through the sequence. If we study pairs of numbers, we can do it like this. Now what happens if we want to study numbers in groups of 3? Well, in that case, there is a different way to draw the numbers, and we would do it like this. And we really only look up until number 9. We could carry on with 10 and 11, and we will do that later on in this course. But for now, let's just take it like this. I think it's going to be easier if we just approach it in this way. So when we put the numbers in a grid, this is called a grid of 9, so it's 3 by 3, right? 3 by 3. What we have is that we can study numbers in their columns and in the rows. Well, and not only that, because actually, now that the 5 is in the middle, not like in the circle, but 5 in the middle, we could say that 10 is all around, then we would see that these pairs of numbers, what we call voices, by the way, these pairs of numbers we call voices or axes, the axis of the 1 and 9, the axis of the 2 and 8, you can find that they are connected to this. You see? 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, and the 10 is special, so 10 is the center and the periphery, yeah, all around. So this diagram shows us already these pairs of numbers or axes, but it also shows us something very interesting, because what we're going to find is that the numbers 1, 4, and 7 is something that is connected to something inside of us, something internal. So how can I put this? I'm going to do it like this. And the numbers 3, 6, and 9, we will see that they are connected to something external. And the 2, the 5, and the 8, they are in between. They are connecting numbers, yeah, in between the internal and the external. So they are mediating numbers, yeah. Between the internal and the external. And right now, don't worry too much. Why do I put internal 1 and external 3? Because this will become evident as we study the qualities of them. Just believe me for a moment, just put it there. I said in the last video that I would not ask you to memorize lists of numbers with names of words, and I would not, I would just, let's explore nature. Let's see how it appears in nature. And we will definitely do that. Just having this reference is going to be useful to point it out. When something will happen, then we will come back here and I will say, you see how that number is internal, or you see how that number is external, and it will become quite clear why we are doing this differentiation. Now, so again, don't worry too much about why we say that these are the qualities for these ones. Let me use a different color for this one. I'll use pink. Very yin colors today, purple and pink, but never mind. 1, 2, 3. These are personal. And 7 and 9 are impersonal. And 4, 5, 6 is again in between. Yeah, the personal and impersonal. And we could say that this is like, if this is me personal, this is impersonal, this will be like peripersonal, or we could say that this is like the social, yeah, around us, connecting us with others. Excuse me. But there's much, much more. I mean, I'm just putting this label right here, but we could see it in many other ways. In fact, these 3 layers, we could also link them to something that I explored in another video some time ago. I was looking at the triads in yoga and observing how there's many of the yogic concepts seem to distribute themselves in 3 aspects. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, God, yeah, generating, organizing, destroyer or deliverer. We could see Dharma, Sangat, Guru. It's the what else? Relaxation, activation, vitality, yeah, the other triangle. There's so many of these, negative, positive, neutral. There's many, many triangles, many 3 aspects in the teachings. And we will observe how we can see them often associated to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We will see how it connects, yeah? But okay, so when we take individual numbers, we go like this. When we take in couples, we go like this, or you can see the different lines like that. And when we go into groups of 3, you can see the grid of 3s, and then that's a good way to say it. Well, all right. What about groups of 4? Well, groups of 4 are particularly interesting because these groups of 4 are what I named on the last video the natural sequences. Yeah, it's not that I made this name. Yeah, Shiv Charan Singh uses this name. Shiv Charan was the creator of Karam Kriya, the one who developed this system or discovered it, right? And he's sharing it with us. So these natural sequences are sequences of 4 numbers, and they move from this one to this one to this one to that one. And I mentioned on the last video how we can easily see how 1, 2, 3, 4 makes sense, but 1, 2, 4, 3 does not make sense. So we will be seeing that. So let's see. Sorry, here it is. Okay, so in order to see the natural sequences, we have to do something else, some other diagram. Now, this is going to be very interesting because if we have number 5, a symbol that is going to help us to distribute these 5 numbers is going to be the pentagram. right? So if you saw me draw this pentagram right now, you would notice that I started drawing from here. So I did one. I first drew here. Then I came over here and I drew this is the second point that I reached. Then I came over here and this was the third one. And then I came over here and this is the fourth one. And then I ended up on the 5. We always end up in the 5. 5 is always the end. Yeah, it's the bridge to something else. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, the way I just drew it already, going within this pentagram, there are two sequences which are perfectly natural and we can observe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is perfectly natural and everybody should know this and there is no surprise here. And I'm just going to write 4 numbers because 5 is a special number that is going to be connecting everything. So I'm just writing the 4, the sequence that leads to the 5, yeah, the one that is going to reach to the 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is a natural sequence. But what happens if we don't start from number 2? What happens if we start from if we start from number 1, if we start from number 2, or we start from number 3, or we start from number 4? What happens? Well, if we start from number 4, it's quite clear also, because if 1, 2, 3, 4 is a natural sequence, 4, 3, 2, 1 is also going to be a natural sequence. So simple. Yeah? Yeah, that's pretty easy as well. However, when we start with number 2 or when we start with number 3, something else happens. And what happens is that instead of moving within this pentagram, what we are doing is we move through the periphery again, following the circle of the 10, like that. So if you go to number 2, from number 2 you go 2, 4, 1, 3, and then you reach the 5. So that would be 2, 4, 1, and 3. And if you start from number 3, you would go 3, 1, 4, 2. 3, 1, 4, 2. And these are also natural sequences. Now, this is one of the most confusing things that I found when I was starting with Karam Kriya. How can 3, 1, 4, 2 be a natural sequence? But the moment we start to understand what is 3, what is 1, what is 4, what is 2, it will become evident as well. So you don't have to worry about that. Why I'm writing it like this? Because this page is going to be very important. I'm going to be coming back to it quite often and pointing things out in the page so that we can understand what we are talking about. But these will be the 4 sequences and it will become evident as we are studying them slowly. But yes, these are going to be studying the numbers in groups of 4. This is in groups of 3s, this is in couples, and this is the numbers individually. So hopefully this is a good basis to start with, yeah? And we said we're going to start with number 7. This is the topic of today. This was like a part of the introduction still from the course, but because it's quite visual, the way to put the numbers here, I think it suits to be doing it on the day of number 7, because number 7 is linked to vision. Now, how is number 7 linked to vision? I kind of mentioned it already, but let's go into it. If we want to understand how what are the numbers, what are the qualities of a particular number, we have to we have to observe where that number arises naturally in our life, in our experience of our life. And one of the things that we more clearly can see, well, if you take the pun, one of the things that we can see is that the light can be divided into 7 colors. And now, this is an incredible, one of these magical things that happen. Well, 7 colors that we can perceive, right? Because you could have animals that could see in the infrared. But if you put here basically white light, just light. Can I write light? Very, very, very light. Light. White light. this is a prism, and this separates the light. Let me get my colors. You know I like to do my drawings. So this will be like the colors of the rainbow. It's really quite amazing because the rainbow is not like a gradient very clearly, like it's like there is these 7 things that we can identify there. Red, orange, yellow, green. Blue. For the last 2, I'm going to use, for the indigo and the violet, I'm going to use like this. I'm going to do this pink. This. I don't have the exact color, sorry. But these are the 7 colors. Now, did anybody notice that the shape that I used to do the diffraction of the light, right, the separation of the light into the 7 colors, is a triangle? Now, why should that be significant? Right? 1, 2, 3, 9, 8, 7, 3 and 7. So, incredibly, when you make the light pass through a prism, which is a triangular shape, 3 sides, 7 colors appear. And that's going to be very significant as well, because there is another thing that is linked to colors, which is the primary colors, right? If I take red and I take, can I do this? Let's see if I don't mess up. Yellow. Yeah. And I take blue. With these 3 colors, I can do any color. Hold on. So 3 colors are considered the primary, yeah? Primary colors. And these 3 is linked to, again, this 7 in some way. So you see, the 3 and the 7 are connected. Colors and seeing are connected. How interesting. I hope you find it interesting. Sat Naam Sohail, hello, good to see you. Good to see you around. Thank you for joining. We are deep into number territory. Yeah, we are exploring number 7 and just connecting it to light and colors right now. Welcome. Feel free to ask or to share anything, yeah? And you may want to see the beginning of the stream if you didn't catch it at the beginning. But so we have here, interesting, the white light through something that has 3 sides becomes 7. And these colors, if we just take 3 of them, we can also do any other possible color. So number 3 and 7 are connected. And yeah, when we join 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When we join the 3 and the 7, 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 is the circle is perfect, the circle is divine. So the numbers 3 and 7 are connected. So this means that 3 and 7 are both connected to lights, to color, and our ability to see. Now, I mentioned before, I was giving an example, what happens if we have an emotion and we want to explore what number is that? And I said, let's take anger. And we said, well, anger is kind of fire. And I mentioned, well, fire is linked to the 3rd chakra. And so that's anger. Well, I'm not going to explain too much, but let's just say, if you understand and you know already that fire is linked to the 3rd chakra, look, 3rd chakra is 3. And fire gives light. It's thanks to fire that we can see the world, right? Without the fire, we have no light. So again, another way in which that number 3 and light are connected, and we know that's connected to 7. But if 3 and 7 are connected to light, what's the difference between 3 and 7? What would be the difference between 3 and 7? The difference is going to be given by the shape of number 7. The shape of number 7 is going to give us a clue. I want to do this something differently, maybe with a brush pen. Let's see if it looks good. Okay, so number 7 has this shape, and it's not a coincidence that we are having these shapes to represent numbers. I would encourage everyone, and we will do it in this course, to draw the 7 in many ways and explore the feeling of it. We can do that here, for example. This is something we will do in every number. Yeah, we will go in every number and draw it, and just have a meditative approach to it, just exploring it by its shape. Sometimes they do like this. In a digital clock, it would look like this. Yeah? More or less. Maybe a new one will come in a moment. Well, let's take this shape for a moment. Well, what can we observe in this? There's a number of things that are in common in this shape. We can see there is an angle. And this angle is already kind of... Can you see already here the shape of a triangle? Right? Like this triangle we were seeing here. So the 3 and the 7 again are manifesting here. Yeah, this triangle. We can see also there is this ladder kind of, this step, like going up a ladder. Now, that's also going to be interesting, because when we are exploring where the 7 manifests in the world, we're going to talk about this today, we see one of the things is the chakras. And the chakras are like little ladders in our body. So like ladders of consciousness, sometimes they are talked about. So you see, like going up. Sometimes you can see here, this is like in a beach, you know, when there is the, how do you call that? The people who are the lifeguards, yeah? They are sitting here. I'm going to do a yogi, yeah? Sitting here, looking at the world from this high place. So sometimes one of the ways that 7 is called is the platform of elevation, because from the top of the 7 you can see far away. Remember, if the 7 colors are linked to vision, if we had no colors, if the whole world was just black and white, could we actually perceive the depth of things? Where can, you know, the three-dimensional space, yeah, the three-dimensional space, could we actually perceive things? Can we grab things if they don't have no depth? So colors are actually, and shades, yeah, they're going to give us this capacity to perceive and to orientate and to move within the three-dimensional world. I'm already giving clues to the difference between 3 and 7 in relationship to light. But let's take it a little bit more. So when we are up on the 7, we have this platform of elevation to look at the world. So the difference between 7 and 3 really is that the 7 is the one that is looking, and the 3 is the one that is being looked at. We will see more about the 3 when we get there. It will take time. But for now, just explore. If you have a number 3 in your date of birth, or you have a number 7 in your date of birth, you will be able to identify these qualities. Yeah, the quality of 7 is the one who sees, who looks, and the one who looks creates some sort of judgment on what is seen. And the 3 is the one that feels judged or feels observed or feels seen. So people with a 3 in the date of birth will have more a tendency to worry about what other people think about them, how other people see them. While people with number 7 in the date of birth will be more concerned on how they see others and what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong, and emitting some sort of judgment. We will be talking about judgment in a few videos, but not right now. For the moment, let's just say that when we are looking at the world from this elevated position, this is when we emit some sort of analysis and judgment on the world. This is done by the mind, and that's why 7 is associated to the mind, and this is why we start the course from the mind. Because if we apply this capacity of the mind to see at the world to the numbers, we're going to be seeing the numbers. And if we have some prejudice or something in relationship to numerology, or we have our own understanding of the world and then we apply it to the numbers, then that's going to interfere with actually relating to the essential nature of every number. So we want to make this 7 as transparent as possible. The 7, which is linked with colors and light, we don't want it to interfere on our perception of the numbers. So we're going to be doing this transparency of the mind. And we will work on this in the future videos, especially when we're going to be talking about mind games. And that's a really, really important topic. I would say one of the most important topics of the whole course, and is starting from the very beginning of the course. So that's something that is coming up very, very soon. We will be going into that in great depth. But okay, so 7 colors of the rainbow allows us to see, and so we connect it to the vision and sight. Let's see how are the ways the number 7 manifests. One immediate other 7 maybe is not so obvious, but let me point it out to you. We said that 7 colors and 3 are connected. The colors are allowing us to see the 3-dimensional world. Yeah, it's a 3D world. So it's interesting that it's 3 dimensions. But look, if I look at something in the 3-dimensional world, this is a dice I did for my daughters some time ago. I do some things with wood. Maybe someday I show more. So let's take this dice. And if I want to see this dice, if I want to see all its corners, now, let me see. Let me put it like this. Let me put it like this. I only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 corners. If I do it like this, we are going to see only 4 corners, right? If I put it like that, look, the maximum we can get to see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 corners. And no matter how I turn it, always, even like this, yeah, only 7 corners. Like that, only 7 corners. The maximum we can ever see of the 3-dimensional world is 7 corners. Now, there's something very, very mystical about this, because when you're looking at the dice, you know that no matter how you turn it, if you are seeing 7 corners, there is always something hidden. There is something on the other side of the moon, right? There is the light side and there's the dark side of the moon. So there's always something hidden. And actually, even in biologically, I believe it's because of the, I may be wrong now, but I think it's the optical nerve attaches to the ball. Let's say this was the eye, right? And the optical nerve attaches here. And so when the light that you are seeing, when the light goes into the pupil and goes to the back and it touches on the optical nerve, that area you cannot see. So if I'm looking straight, there is a point around here. It's called my blind spot. I cannot see that spot, right? So even in vision, just because, I mean, if we had no blind spot, it would mean we have no connection. We don't have the optical nerve, so we could not see. So for us to have the ability to see, we need that blind spot. So vision is inherently linked to having a blind spot. In this case, no matter what we look at the world, there's always going to be a side or a number of sides that we are not going to be seeing. And this is reflected here. Remember, we were going to observe the form as well. The form can inform us about the meaning of numbers. So this shape of the 7, this shape, they all have a number of things in common. One of them is that they shape like an angle. And in this angle, no matter where you are sitting on this 7, here, right here, in this angle, in this little corner, here, there is darkness. Here, we cannot see. You sit on top of the platform and you look out, the lifeguard is watching over others. Yeah, this judgment thing, I don't want it to see like something evil, because judgment is necessary. We will see how judgment is necessary as well. But our capacity to see and to look and to observe is also very important in the world. But let's just understand, if we are looking out, there is one part that is also hidden. So this is going to be an interesting concept as well to keep in mind. As long as we're applying the mind, there's always going to be a hidden spot. How is it called? A blind spot for us. So we have to be mindful of this blind spot. So that's interesting, yeah? And also, well, I mentioned, where do we find this 7? One of the things that we find this 7 is in the 7 chakras. And that's, we can see it over here, yeah? However, let me just say one thing. Sometimes it would be tempting to say, well, if something is number 6, it will be the 6th chakra, linked to the 6th chakra. If something is number 5, is the 5th chakra. And in a way it is, because there is a strong connection. However, it's not 100%. And I'll tell you why. Because we have 9 numbers and we have 7 chakras, which means that there is not a direct correlation 1-to-1 numbers to chakras, but there is actually a correlation 3-to-1, and we can see that. So let's take a look at that. Let's draw another yogi. Let's do it in blue. I made a mistake because this is going to be much longer, yeah? So starting from the base, going to the top. But if we have 7 chakras and 9 numbers, they are going to be connected in the following way. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, and 7, 8, and 9. So you see again how the 3 and the 7 connect. When we put the numbers in groups of 3, we can see that the first chakra is actually not only the energy of number 1, but is 1, 2, 3. Second chakra is 2, 3, 4. Third chakra is 3, 4, 5. So when we are studying the qualities of the numbers, we're going to see that they are connected to the chakras, but not, if you say number 6, well, we will see a bit of number 6 here and here and here, 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 and here. So there's going to be a number of points where every number is going to be appearing. A good example of this is maybe like when you study the qualities of chakras in yoga and you say, well, somebody who has money problems, this is a problem that you can isolate to the first chakra. This is a quite common understanding of the problem in yogic terms. However, if we look at it from an energetic standpoint, yeah, money is energy, right? So if I have more money, I can buy more fuel, more gasoline for my car, right? If you drive a gasoline fuel car, right? If you have more money, you can buy more gasoline, you can get farther with the car, right? Or you have more money, you can buy more food, which is fuel for your body, and you can reach farther as well, no? So there is a direct correlation between money and energy. Money is just a form of energy. But energy is something that we connect to the number 2 because energy flows and money flows, yeah? And if we look at some systems of economy and understanding how the money, how your economy is, you may use some equations and some system that is utilizing metaphors coming from a system of water. How is the water coming in? How is it going out? And your understanding of water. So water is number 2, second chakra. Then how come we put the problems with money on the first chakra? Because water is number 2. Well, that's because the first chakra is not only number 1, it's 1, 2, 3. So you see, even though, yes, water is number 2, and yes, water is linked to energy, the number 2 appears this one, but also appears on the first chakra. So we should not be too quick to assign qualities to the chakras when we are thinking about numbers. So this is just a little warning, yeah? But yes, we have 7 chakras and 7 main chakras. We have many, yeah? But this is the main ones. And when you study the qualities of these chakras, there is a lot of things also that manifest, and they are number 7. We're going to see how these chakras are associated from certain traditions with 7 sins and 7 virtues. Yeah, like Christianity would talk about this. And it's a fascinating topic. We will explore that. It's considered there are 7 hells and 7 heavens, or 7 steps to heaven and 7 steps to hell. We will explore that. That's a magical video we have ahead of us. Very, very interesting. There is 7 planets in the solar system. I mean, disregarding Earth, yeah? As if we are in Earth. If we look in the system, there is the Sun, the 10, the perfection, and then there's 7 planets more. And I think it's in Kriya Yoga that they would associate every planet with 1 chakra, and you are doing an orbit, yeah, around the solar system, moving the energy, the light of consciousness, right? Like the sun giving light through the 7 planets. It's very mystical and magical, and it's right in our bodies. And it's not a coincidence, and you can feel it. This is not something that we can invent. I mean, we could use a base 12 for numerology. We could use a base 16. If we had 12 fingers, maybe we would count up until 12. But if you look in the body, you can identify these 7 major chakras. And these 7 major chakras link to these 7 planetary, celestial planets in the sky. So is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Yeah. All right. So what else do we have with number 7? We saw the corners in a dice. We saw the colors. We see the chakras. We see the deadly sins and the virtues and the steps to heaven and the steps to hell. There's another very, very immediate thing that we have 7 is 7 days of the week, which are again associated to gods. Yeah. So Thursday would be Thor, right? The god of thunder, and so on. So very interesting as well that we are connecting something mythological like the gods to something that can be also connected to mythological, some of the concepts from Christianity of the 7 deadly sins. They are stories teaching us values, right? So values are something that we are going to be keeping in our mind to see how we operate in the world. So values are going to be connected to this number 7. And these mythologies are going to be guiding our understanding of how to be a virtuous human. So 7 days of the week linked to this story of the Bible of how the earth was created on 7 days. And the 7th day, God looked at the creation, yeah, and he thought it was fine. Looked, yeah, 7 again. So that's very interesting as well, how it appears in these concepts as well, mythological concepts. So, 7 days of the week, 7 musical notes. And maybe this is, there is actually the 7 basic musical notes. There's actually, if you look at all the harmonics, you can have up to until 12. And that's going to be interesting as well, because when we studied the Mool Mantra, we saw that there were 12 steps. Yeah? Ekam Karsatnam Kartapurak Nirbho Nirvera Kalmunat Ajuni Saivan Guru Prasad Jap. And Jap was the 12. So this 12 concept is going to appear every now and then, and it's going to be interesting. We will explore it. But yeah, let's for the moment, let's just say the 7 days, 7 musical notes, and something happens. Because if you see that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when you get to Sunday, you go back to Monday, there is a feeling that there is not an eighth. Yeah. Now, if you look at the 7 musical notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So you come to do again. It's like there is no 8th note. We are back to the 7th, right? Back to the 1, yeah? So this is the feeling that the mind has. This idea that when it's sitting atop its perch, yeah, atop this platform of elevation, the mind thinks that it's the highest point possible. And this is a trick that the mind plays with us. Again, the mind has some blind spots. Yeah, the mind plays its games, and the mind lies. It's a necessary lie. We will also talk how the mind is important. However, the mind being sitting on number 7 doesn't realize that there is a number 8 and there is a number 9. They are higher above us. Yeah, we could see them. They are here. We will see these 8 and the 9, what they represent. But one of the things we can already see is 2 and 8 are connected. I mentioned that the 2 is connected to water because it's movement. Yeah, it's energy, movement. Well, when you get to number 8 is when the energy finishes. We will see this in detail as well, but let me just take it like that. So number 8 would be connected to death, to dying. So maybe it's not a coincidence that when you are in the number 7, the 7th day of the week, the 7th musical note, there is no 8th musical note. There is no 8th day of the week because something is dead. So we go back to the beginning, yeah? There is no 8th. And this is the perception that the number 7 has. If you want to look towards the 9, you cannot, because in between there is the 8. And this 8 is this infinite separation from what is in the 9. Yeah, so we feel this infinite separation, infinity. So the 7th thing, oh, I am at the highest point. That's what the mind thinks. Yeah, this is like the sometimes we call it the false king. Yeah, because it's crowning itself. It's in the crown, but this is the mind that puts a crown on itself. It thinks it's the king. It thinks it's the highest place possible, but it's not. It's just that it cannot see beyond the veil of death, beyond the veil of the number 8 being infinity. So it's very interesting that when we look at the days of the week, when we look at the 7 primary colors, the 7 musical notes, we cannot see a number 8. That's an interesting thing. It will come back again. What else do we have that is 7? Well, there is in psychology, the 7-year cycle is quite interesting. Yeah, every 7 years there is a transition. We will also explore this, how you can see the first 7 years as childhood, and then you can see in infancy, and then childhood, and then adolescence, and then maturity, and there is like a number of stages like that. I think also Shakespeare, in one of his plays, he talked about the 7 ages of man. Yeah, so he also played with the idea of number 7. But this is studied in psychology. Every 7 years we are changing. There's something in us, something in our minds that is changing every 7 years. And look, our life right now, our modern life is around 70 years old, 70 something. So 7 times 10, and 10 being the completion. So how interesting, yeah? So there's something we will study as well in this course. That I'm just pointing to many things that are coming up, yeah, in the following videos. It's going to be the different life cycles. What happens between 0 and 7, 7 and 14, 14 and 21. And that's a fascinating topic. And well, in yoga, we dedicate like 6 days, 6 full days to study the life cycles, just this topic, life cycles in life, yeah, the different cycles in life. So that's something that we will explore a little bit as well in another future video. What else do we have that are number 7? Well, 7 appears in stories a lot. Now, if 7 is something that is connected to the mind, then the mind is not a coincidence that it feels attracted to this number 7. And we can see it in so many stories, from the 7 dwarfs, right? In the Snow White, we have the 7 labors of Hercules. In the classical version, because in the extended version, it goes up to 12. So interesting again, the 7 and the 12. Remember the musical notes? 7 musical notes, but if you take the C sharp and D sharp and F and G and A sharp, that's 3 and 2, 5 more, so 7 plus 5, that's 12, right? So how interesting that in the 7 labors of Hercules, yeah, or 12 labors of Hercules, what else? 7 voyages of Sinbad the Sailor, right? If you have read the Arabian Nights, you will be familiar with this. Or in the Count of Monte Cristo, he talks a lot about the Sinbad the Sailor. No, he pretends to be Sinbad the Sailor from the Arabian Nights. Well, he has 7 voyages filled with adventures. How interesting, yeah? How many stories? 7 ravens from the Grimm brothers, right? Another story from the Grimm brothers about 7 brothers who, I think they have some sort of curse or something, and they become ravens. And I don't know if it's the sister of them is trying to undo the... I don't remember the fairy tale, but yeah, 7 brothers. There's also another... there's a movie, 7 brothers, 7 wives for 7 brothers, 7 brides for 7 brothers, something like that. So that's interesting, no? These 7 league boots, when you use them, you can jump 7 leagues on every step. You can go very quick. So you see, 7 is everywhere in stories, right? Why? Because our mind makes the stories. Our mind creates these myths and these metaphors for us to understand something. And because the essence of the mind is connected to this number 7, we are going to find it again and again in number 7. And when we look at the world, we're going to classify the world in 7 things, 7 continents, right? 7 seas. Yeah, it used to be like the 7 seas that we knew. So when we look around, this is what we see. This is what the eye see. And that's because it's connected to us who are seeing the mind, but also vision. Yeah, so we see the world and we classify it in 7. How many stories do you know that there is 6 things? How many? Really? I leave this question for you to explore, yeah? What else? 7 wonders of the world, right? We see the world and we think, oh, wow, the world is wonderful. Let's make the 7 most wonderful places of the world. You know, like, wait, why 7? Why not 8 or 9 or 10? No, we choose 7 wonders of the world. It's incredible, huh? So very interesting that 7 is a number that's going to repeat again and again when we talk about mythology, about story, about fantasy. It's linked to time, yeah, with 7 days of the week and the 7-year cycle, the 7 years life. It's linked to our aura and our systems with the 7 planets within us, and all these things are connected to number 7. Well, it's a magical world, and we just starting to explore it. But this is a good start. To beginning, we have a number of topics ahead of us. Yeah, I'm just gonna mention some of the ones I talked about. The mind likes to lie, and it plays games with us, and we're gonna have to deal with these games. This is gonna be one of the most important topics. The mind likes to ask questions. We're going to have to explore that capacity of the mind. We're going to see more about the nature of the mind and how it affects us, because we just came from a course on the mind in other videos that we just did in this channel. So we will explore the mind from the perspective of numbers. Now, we will explore the 7 steps to heaven, 7 steps to hell in detail, the cycles of 7 years, and a few more things on number 7. This is the beginning. This is, I think it's 1 hour. I think it's enough. It's quite deep that we went to this. Some of the videos may be even longer than this, but for us, for today, I think it's a good start. And I hope it was of service. If you enjoyed this and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I encourage you to do so. If you want to become a member, there is members who support the channel as well. You are I'm very grateful for anyone who give any support to the channel. If you didn't like the video and you did reach this point, it is likely that you found something useful for you. So feel free to like it as well. And until next time, we keep in touch. Naam, take care. Thank you, everyone.